Every Sunday, here along Highway 130 in Puna, hundreds crowd this Hawaiian homeland on the way to Pahoa. A full parking lot, loud music, vendors everywhere. What looks like a rock concert is actually Hawaii Island's popular Maku'u Farmers Market.
Of all the ones that I've seen, we got more food, we got entertainment. It's the best market. Where else can you go and you see live bands at any farmer's market with people dancing? They're having fun. It's like a big party.
Maku'u is an opportunity for Big D to share his specialty with a large customer base.
Pasteles. I used to sell other foods, but that just keeps me busy, so I just stay with pasteles.
All right.
Daryl says the popularity of farmers markets is a sign of the times.
With the economy looking bad, it's real important. There's no jobs. So people just gotta, do this and try to make a living or go on welfare. And some people are too proud to go on welfare. I'm one of them.
Boy, we just love it here. We really enjoy our time here.
Steve Roscoe says he sees the number of communities investing time and energy into farmers markets growing.
Really, since the economy sort of took a dive here in the last 4 or 5 years or so, it seems like there's been a lot of upstart farmers markets per se all over.
Roscoe has worked on establishing special market events in Volcano Village, and as he recalls, there was a lot of red tape involved.
They can dictate every little thing about who does what, time you start and close down, what you can do, how you load and unload, how you govern yourself when you're there, radio, no radio.
But things may get a little easier for folks looking to start a market of their own. The Hawaii County Council is considering a bill that would make it easier for communities to host farmers markets on the Big Island.
This, I thought, was a good step in the right direction for building community, building our sustainable agriculture, and allowing more flexibility for community associations as well as farmers and people to come together and be able to sell their products.
Right now, a farmer's market needs to obtain a special use permit if the organizers want to have one in a residential, commercial mixed use, or in an agricultural district. County Council Bill 69, introduced by Puna Councilman Zendo Kern, would do away with that requirement. Kern explained his proposal during the Hawaii County Committee on Planning meeting on Tuesday, August 6th.
To build the sense of community, and that's what a lot of people are talking about, a lot of constituents that I talk to, is we're trying to build this sense of community, that a good place to start would be at the community associations, where it's community owned, a viable, legitimate community association, and start there, saying that you can have a farmer's market of up to 25 vendors within daylight hours. There's probably going to be some little tweaks and adjustments as we go along, but I think it's a good start, and it will open that up so people can actually grow their products, bring them to a farmer's market, and the community association can do that without having to go through the long, sometimes not that long, but the process of getting a special use permit.
I understand the intent, and I would like everyone to be able to sell their produce, because it's the hardest thing to do is making it and then selling it. It's hard to find vendors.
It makes me think about growing up in the plantation villages, and it doesn't only have to be a market where you sell. It can be a place to barter.
The watermelon, this one's $6, the big one.
Because I know we had an abundance of peanuts.
One watermelon, one honeydew.
And neighbors down in a different camp had a lot of lettuce, and we bartered.
I wanted to give you 3 for a little watermelon. Can I do that?
I cannot.
You cannot.
So this is an opportunity for communities to come together and share what they have in their food baskets. And I think this is a healthy way to build the food sustainability that we talk about. It's going back to basics again on what we did back in the day.
Steve Roscoe says the bill sounds like a good idea.
I think if there's an out-of-the-way subdivision and they don't have easy access to one, I think it's a great idea for the community members to legally put together a farmer's market locally for them.
But some are critical of the bill, like R.J. Hampton, who, along with her friend Sativa, operates the Raising Cane concession at Maku'u every Sunday.
Markets are a really incredible thing, and they can grow and they can get out of hand, and they bring a lot of people into your neighborhood that you necessarily would not want. And who does it really benefit? That does the market. So for me, I'm kind of cool on this whole idea of making it easy for people to have these farmers markets in residential areas. And a lot of people think that they can get permission after they get forgiveness. Big Island Video!
Hampton, who is a vocal critic of the Puna councilman, recalls the circus-like atmosphere of the Seaview Performing Arts Center for Education, known as SPACE, when they went before the Windward Planning Commission in May of 2012 for a permit revocation hearing.
The location of the subject properties are located in the Puna district. More specifically, we're looking at Seaview Kalapana Estates. This is a closer view. Again, we have the subject properties identified with black outline. The color of the map represents the zoning, which is all identified as agricultural, 3 acres. On September 21st, 2001, special permit number 1122 was approved. This was approved to Hawaii Volcano Circus, or HVC, who was represented by Graham Ellis.
And our first deviation from our special permit was the farmers market, which quite honestly, in our naivety, we believe was a legitimately permitted activity on agricultural land.
A weekly farmers market was only one of the many popular activities at SPACE, but complaints from neighbors brought the center under greater scrutiny.
Since January of 2010 until the present, the Planning Department has received numerous complaints from several complainants. Complaints were related to the performances open to the public held on the subject property, loud noise, traffic, on-street parking, public safety, unpermitted structures, hours of operation, non-compliance with conditions of the special permit, and other complaints. If the applicant fails to comply with the conditions of approval or causes complaints relating to any interference or nuisance and is unable to resolve them with the surrounding community, the planning director shall investigate and, if necessary, suspend the permit.
Alleged non-compliance with conditions of the permit led the planning department to consider stripping the organization of its permit, essentially forcing the closure of the operation.
It was concluded that the applicant violated these conditions of special permit number 1122 with a portion of the cease and desist order stated, cease and desist operating all unpermitted activities on the subject property that were not represented under special permit number 1122. These include, but are not limited to, the weekly farmers market, swap meet, bazaars, jazz cafe, community movie nights, drama workshops, family parties, group events, weddings, and music and public performance programs, and any other unpermitted non-agricultural business. April 5th, 2012, the Planning Department continued to receive complaints that the farmers market continued on, as well as other space-related activities.
Would the people for SPACE please put your hands up?
Supporters of SPACE packed the commission meeting, and SPACE was allowed to stay open as they tried to get together an application for an amended special use permit.
If it is the intent of the commission to defer this for 6 months, the department has no opposition to continuing the farmers market, and I think it was the once-a-week swap meet that we had allowed in our initial determination. And that's because that's consistent with what we've done with other areas of the island while people have been putting their special use permit together.
It was a costly process for the group.
And SPACE, while struggling financially, has been obliged to hire costly legal representation for our special permit process.
We are here this morning because of a misunderstanding, and I apologize that this misunderstanding has got to this point.
So what's happening here, what I see is for 12 years, you're in violation.
Hampton says there are a lot of considerations for a farmer's market, especially one near a residential area.
Yes, the amount of people that it brings in, amount of traffic, running over the roads, having to deal with security and getting people out of the neighborhood once they've come into the neighborhood. So there's a lot that goes on. So I would think that everybody that wants to be economically sufficient and sustainable, they should think about what they're doing and where they're doing it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the process, except that they let them start them before they get permission. So I think that's on the county. Close them down and make them apply and find out what it is they want to do, because it can get out of hand. Lord knows, I know. We started this one here at this market, and it was in Pahoa, and we had to move, and we grow. So you need space. You need to be able to be away from people to do this. So I'm for let's think a little bit and not play politics with the markets.
Hampton isn't the only one.
Especially when you have 25 vendors and you never know how many people are going to be going to these farmers markets, especially in residential areas. What's the neighbors going to think when you have maybe 100 people that show up with all their cars? Where's everybody going to park? So that's a big issue that I had.
But the key is addressing the traffic issues and the other issues that so that it is not zoning has to do with the expectation of people moving there and what they think they're getting and their pluses and minuses. And like you said, the example of 100 cars, we want things to be successful.
You know, when I first read this bill, one of my concerns was that, you know, the special use permit process affords some confidence from the public. You know, they know that the government, you know, to people like the government, people don't like the government, you know, that's back and forth. But they know the county is kind of on top of it. An application has to go to the planning department. That application also has to go to the planning commission. Public notice is given, and, you know, surrounding lot owners are required to be notified of the proposed use. And I think the confidence that it instills with the public is, you know, we don't know what the entire spectrum of this farmers market is going to be. You know, is it going to be as successful as the Maku'u farmers market, where, you know, I had the opportunity to go by a couple of weeks ago, and that parking lot was just full. You know, I'm not sure if anybody reasonably anticipated prior to the enactment of that farmers market that it would be so successful. And, you know, if there's a farmers market in Paradise Park, or, you know, Hawaiian Ranchos or HOVE, or, you know, whatever, nobody has a crystal ball. We can't tell how successful this farmers market or how much of a demand that it will be. So what the special permit process affords is it affords the continued oversight of the market. You know, one of the provisions that is always incorporated in the special permit application or approval is a condition that the planning director has the authority to, at any point in time, address concerns that are raised by the public, and appropriate, you know, measures may be taken by the planning director, including but not limited to sending the matter back to the planning commission for further, you know, remedies or addressing of the issues or the complaints. And you know, that's what I think, that's a component that is inherent with the special use permit that I think we have to try and ferret it out and incorporate into, you know, Mr. Kern's bill. I think we can do that.
Ka'u Councilwoman Brenda Ford expressed some concerns about the bill.
For the record, I'm generally in favor of this. I think we need some amendments to it.
One of the questions, would road maintenance corporations be counted amongst the other homeowners associations that would be allowed to hold the markets?
The farmers market shall be organized by homeowners or tenants association having Internal Revenue Code 501c4 exempt status and operating pursuant to the rules established by the association.
Homeowners associations and tenants associations, but you don't allow road maintenance associations, which I believe is a C6. Mr. Brilhante, do you have some knowledge of that?
There are some road maintenance associations which kind of take on the role of a homeowners association, and I think specifically one of those entities is the Hawaiian Ranchos subdivision, and I know that's, you know, an issue raised. So what and their road C6. Maintenance, yeah. Right. So what I'll just confirm that they are a 501c6, so there may be some consideration given.
Recently, the Hawaiian Ranchos Road Maintenance Corporation made news headlines for their appeal of a special permit given to the Ocean View Partners, LLC, to hold a swap meet in their subdivision, the same one that outgrew the parking lot of Malama Market in Hawaiian Ocean View Estates. The swap meet has become an unwelcome event for some Ocean View residents.
Farmers market, and then now it's affecting the neighbors. And so Would you want to comment on that, or?
I think there's some nuances with that case that may not directly correlate to what's being proposed right now. However, you're correct in that one of the primary issues is the issue regarding on-site parking for, like Mr. Arai said, it's not just the parking for the vendors, but primarily it's the parking for the general public that's going to come and support the farmers market. And, as the director or the establisher of the farmers market, it's your goal to attract as many, potential buyers and, members of the public to come and support your entity. So there's kind of like a balancing that has to go on between what's the desired level of public and what's too much public coming in to support the market. So I think Mr. Kern's proposal to have these issues addressed when we move through the process, I think would be appropriate, and I'm glad we got airtime for it right now.
It remains unclear how the proposal would interact with existing state laws as well.
And the issue is, we have this ancient state law that says you can grow agricultural products in an ag zone, but you can't sell them there. You can't have a market unless you go through this process. But you can cross the line to the next parcel that's either residential or commercial. Okay, it's fine, you can do it there. And it just not only baffles me that it's lasted this long, but it annoys me because of just what you're bringing up here. I think Mr. Brilhanti is correct. We're going to get stuck with this state law, even if we pass this bill.
If we're talking about what state law allows now, the state land use law does not allow farmers markets anywhere on lands designated agriculture.
State ag.
State ag.
It could be county ag, and the underlying state designation might be rural, as an example, and that would be okay. But if it winds up being state ag, then farmers markets are not allowed.
If it's state land use ag, farmers markets are not allowed, and the only place where farmers markets are permitted are allowed as a permitted use on urban designated lands is within the commercial zoning districts.
Okay. I think we have a little issue there that we need to resolve because we need to do this. There are regulations on certain food products. I'm not even sure about produce, but certainly if it's a manufactured food product, there's DOH laws regarding health regulations. Certified kitchens are sometimes required, yak.
This kind of all comes into play when we look at the discussion we've been having up to this point. As Mr. Arai correctly stated, under the Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 205, farmers market is not a permitted use under state designated agriculture lands. So that being the case, the language in the HRS says it is therefore prohibited. So that's how we get the prohibition associated with these farmers markets. There is an avenue that the public's afforded if they want to proceed with a farmers market on state ag designated lands. That's the special permit requirement. And part and parcel to that special permit requirement is the fact that the applicant has to get clearances from the State Department of Health as to what the proposed use or the expanded proposed use will be. And that's where the Department of Health permission comes into play.
Great discussion. I do think the state land use is an issue, as we have many issues with the state that do not fit or meet our environment, our climate, our island, our county. I will also stand with Bill and help make that happen, because it can't stop here. I believe that we do need to have the proper constraints to make the community comfortable and safe, absolutely. But we also need to take away regulation at a certain time. Sometimes we over-regulate, and this is about finding that balance and having the properly crafted bill, which is great to have this discussion, that takes care of it within that. And it can be through, the various departments it has to go through to have the normal checks and balances. But this is an area where I feel like we should get out of the regulating of this particular element when it comes to these community associations, so we can really build the community. Just because we're lawmakers, we don't need to regulate, I feel. There is a place for that, but it has to be done right. I couldn't agree more. And again, this is the right step in the right direction. We'll work on the state issue as well as these other concerns. With that, I have a meeting with the director like next week, so I will talk story with him on that and get together with you guys in the meantime.
The council decided to postpone the matter to the call of the chair.